So how about as many as with a twist? I'm going to show you 5 different cards and show you how to get as many as you can from minimal supplies. Let's go. Okay, you guys, so for the first card, you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock, and you're going to want them to work together. So, for example, I'm using this poinsettia one here, and I'm going to use buffalo check. Now, I must apologize to you. Without thinking, I cut this paper down, and I should have cut it down on camera with you, but here's what you're going to do. From your 2 sheets, you're going to cut as many 1 7/8 by 2.5 pieces as you can get. And for me, that is 24 pieces. And I'm going to do that to both pages, right? Now, when you're picking your paper, here's one thing you need to think about. You want the front and the back to not matter too much directionally, if you know what I'm saying. Words might be difficult, something that has to stay in a certain orientation. So here I just used a snowflake and flowers, and it won't matter which way they lay out. And on my buffalo check page, you can see here, it's buffalo check on one side and then practically solid on the other. So either way won't matter, and that's what you want to pay attention to. All right, so that's step 1, do your cutting. All right, for your next step, what I want you to do is I want you to make 4 stacks like this. You're going to have a stack of 12 buffalo check or whatever you're using, a stack of 12, a stack of 12, and a stack of 12. And they'll lay out like this. You want to alternate your patterns, okay? So once you have your stacks of 12, I want you to put 1 of each here and move the others to the side. But make sure you remember what pile goes to what, okay? Now, we're going to make this look like an explosion, sort of, and we want it to explode from this center area, all right? So I'm going to slide these here for a second, and we're going to work on this one. We need to make a mark. I'm going to go to the side of this guy, and I'm going to make a mark 1.25 inches up on one side, so just lining that up. So make a mark 1.25 inches here, okay? And then I'm going to make a mark 1.25 inches on the other side. I would caution you to watch this video before you try to make it. Like, just watch, and it'll all make sense in the end. All right, so let me bring these back over, okay? So you can see here I've made a pencil mark on this one. Now what we're going to do is fold it. Move these out of the way one more second. So I've laid my ruler from pencil mark to pencil mark. I'm not quite on that one. Let me get there. And this works really easy. When you lay this down, if you'll take your bone folder, slide it under the paper and press it against your ruler, you won't have to score all of these. That kind of scores it for you. And then you're just going to lay this back and crease it down. You might want to look at it and make sure you got a good square, because mine went a little crooked, so let's get it right. We're going to spend some time on this first one because this is going to be the one we use for the rest, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy, and I know I want the same angle down here, okay? So I'm going to take this guy, and I want to place him where that angle will be at the top, and I'm just going to trace it. Just going to trace this. That pencil mark goes behind anyway. You won't see it because we're going to fold on top of it. So now I've made a mark there. Now for these, I'm just going to make a mark on one and do the same thing we just did. So let me slide these, and I'm going to mark down 1.25 inches. And I'm going to tell you, this looks like a lot, but I promise once you get this part done, it goes pretty easy. And I'm going to mark over 1.25 inches. Make sure I can see my marks. Put my ruler there. Pick up that corner. Do my little score trick. And then I want to check it and make sure I've got it good and square, because this is going to be my other template. Wasn't quite square there. Let's get that fixed. All right, and then what I'll do, bring these back over so you can see, just like I did there, I'm going to take this guy down here and trace him. So now I need to fold these guys back. So this is roughly the card layout that we're working with. So what I need to do here is take all of my little piles, okay, and use the template that I created to trace them and fold them. So I'm going to go off camera and do that. I'm going to trace this one onto here and fold all of them, this onto here, this onto here, and this onto here, and get them all folded, and we'll get right back together. So now you can see I have all 12 of these folded in the right way, these, and these. Now let me say this. For me, I could have stacked 24 and 24 because my patterns don't really matter. But if you're doing different patterns, it's best to do the process I just showed you, just to be sure we get this one where it goes and this one where it goes, etc., etc. All right, move these aside. Keep them where they go. Like when you put them off your table or wherever you're going to put them to the side, just remember which one is which. Okay. Now you'll need 12 envelopes and 12 card bases, and I'm using pre-made here. This is always easier for me. What I want you to do is take out one card base. Go ahead and fold and crease it. Now, while I'm doing this, you might be thinking, Maymay, where are you getting these ideas from? Well, let me tell you. We went out to Pinterest and we found some cards that we thought made the best use of cardstock. So we used those as our inspiration. And anytime I can and where I can, I will link those images or the videos or anything that goes with them in the description below. Also, we're making a PDF for you for all of these measurements. So we'll have that for you guys to be able to print as well. Okay, so now that I have my card base, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and glue one down, and I'll show you why. I'm gonna place these just as if this was like a first mat. So what you're gonna have is like an 1/8 inch all the way around the outside edge, and what we have left in the middle is gonna be where we're gonna stamp. Now you have a couple options. One, you could leave this like this, make some pencil marks and know where you can stamp, or you can do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and glue one down and use it as my example to set up my MISTI for my stamping. So I'm gonna get these guys glued into place. And again, set one corner, okay? And again, 1/8 of an inch all the way around. That's gonna be your little lineup. Do not fret over perfection. It just isn't that important. Nobody's gonna look at your card and go, you got an 1/8 right there, but you're a little off there. Nobody's gonna do that, I promise. All right, so I'm gonna do the same down here. And all you're really trying to do is kind of eyeball leave the same amount between and on the sides, okay? Another thing, if you don't glue these down perfectly, I think that having these little middle pieces kind of popped up give you a lot of forgiveness on lines, because they kind of take away from how, you know, the straight lines of the card. These just give so much movement in the middle. I'm not going to glue these down. You could, but I think they'll be cute not to glue them down in the card. I think they'll look cool when they pull them out of the envelope. All right, let's go to the MISTI with this. So I've got the card into the corner of the MISTI, and I'm going to use our stamp set called Holly and Heels. We're going to use Happy Holidays. I think that's super cute, and it fits in here really pretty. So I'm going to lay this guy into where I want it in the center, just like this. And I have plenty of room on this one, so I should be fine on my other card bases without having to glue everything down first. Just get this kind of eyeball centered, something like that. A tip is use a sentiment that's very kind of scripty, has a lot of lines, because it doesn't really have a very straight edge. It'll be a good way to get them all kind of looking similar. All right, now I'm going to close this MISTI door down and pick that up. And see how those little folds don't matter? Also, it's cute glued down, so if you want to glue it down, you can. See how good that looks square? All right, so let's go ahead and stamp this one because we've got it here. I'm going to bring this guy over and put him here to hold him closed. And you guys know me, I'm going to use my favorite VersaFine Onyx Black to get a really, really pretty sentiment. All right, I've inked it up. I'm going to close that down. I'm going to use my impressible. And I know you're thinking, what if you mess up your stamping? I could, but I'm only going to do this on this card one time. We're going to stamp the other ones, but without having them all glued. I'm going to go ahead and do that twice. All right, so I've got that one set, and you can see what the card is going to look like. Isn't it cute? I love it. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let's go to our card bases now. I already folded and creased this one. I'm going to put it in the corner. I'm going to hold it down. I'm going to grab my ink. I'm going to send this over and stamp it. Because I lined up that first one, all of these are going to be good. And this way, if you make a mistake, it's better to replace a card base than a whole card that we were working on with all our pieces already on it. So run through and stamp all your card bases and we can assemble. Almost forgot an essential tool. I don't want to do any mass stamping without my ink bandit. So I'm going to set my ink bandit to the side so I can get my ink from it back and forth. All right, so we've got our sentiment stamped, and now we'll just glue our pieces down, and this will create the card. Now you're going to do that with all 12 of your card bases, and look how easy it is to get 24 cards from 2 pieces of cardstock. I think that's pretty cool, and I really like this design. So the only thing this card needs is a sentiment on the inside, which you can do at the same time you're stamping, or you can do it like me and leave it blank because you don't know exactly who you're sending it to. You can always add your sentiment later. So our first card, 2 pieces of cardstock, gets us 24 cards. All right, let's go into card number 2. I realized I forgot to show you what paper pack I used for the first card. It was called The Magic of Christmas from Echo Park. For our second card, I'm going to be using the Paper Rose Black and White Christmas. This paper works really cool, and we're using a 6x6. So we're going to get 7 cards from this. We're going to get 6 in one style and then 1 that is a bonus. And let me show you how to make the cuts here. For this card, you're going to want several different patterns. I chose 4 and it worked out really well. So like I said, 6 by 6, I'm going to use 4 patterns. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut these pages into 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch squares. So I'm going to cut this one really quick. The whole page, you want to cut as many as you can get from it. Now you can see when I cut that way, I end up having this piece that won't quite make 1 1/4 inch. Save this. This is going to be for our bonus card. From each page, not only will you have your 1 1/4 inch squares, but you'll also have this little bit left. Don't get rid of this either, because you can use this to make another card. So these are the ones I cut to 1 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch. So I have those stacked up. These were little pieces left over, and these were little pieces left over. I'm going to put these aside. We'll come back to those in a few minutes. With these guys, I want to turn these 4 patterns into 8 patterns. So you have 16 pieces of each. So what I'm going to do is count out 8, and then I'm just going to flip this pattern over. So that gets me 2 patterns, 8 each, and I'm going to do that with every one. So you see how now we have 8 different patterns, still only using the 4 pieces of 6 by 6. All right, I'm going to slide these aside. Now I went ahead and cut for myself these pieces. These are a first mat. So this is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. And what you want to do is you want to lay these little squares out 3 across and 4 down. And all you really want to try to do is alternate black and white. So if I have white in this corner, then I'll put black in the middle, then I want a white over here. And then I want to opposite this on the next row. So now I want a black here. So I'll go to the next one. And then I want a white one here. And then a black one on the end. Now, once you have this laid out, there's a very good chance you may have to repeat a pattern here. It's not a deal breaker. It's no problem. What I'm going to do is just go to the next white background that I haven't used yet and put it here. And don't worry, all this will fit. I know it looks tight, but we have to get them really nestled close to each other and get them kind of close. So a white one there. I need another black one here. So you can see I've used the 3 patterns already, right? So I'll just duplicate. I'll just pick one that's not super close, and I'll just put this guy here. You can do this any way you want, and I promise by the time it's done, no one will be like, it won't be like sticking out in your face that you've done that. So then I'm going to put this one here, and then I just need to do opposite here. So I'm going to take this one way over here, and then I'll get maybe this snowflake from the top, and then this snowflake that's at the top. So here's a rough layout, and all you do is continue to do that. The big thing is to just have white, black, just alternating like that. And now we're just going to glue these down. So what I did when I lined mine up is I did one side first, okay? So I'm going to start with this guy and add glue. And I'm gluing this straight down. I didn't want to pop these up. I didn't want to have to line them up that perfectly to pop them up on foam. So I'm going to glue this down, and it goes super close to the top. It's like a 1/16 of an inch gap. But because we're using an opposite color or a brighter color in the background, it'll really show, right? So then I'm going to come here and take this guy and that same kind of 1/16 of an inch gap. So to the side and underneath the top one. Perfect. And then the next one, let me show you something else too. If you are like me and you fidget and you don't want to mess with all those pieces, if you'll take your quick stick, you can pick that piece up pretty easy and you won't have to move everything around too awful much. And then this bottom one. And you see how you end up with that tiny sliver of red showing in between them. And in some places it's not perfect. And I promise you by the time it's done, you won't notice. I'm going to finish gluing these guys down. Okay, I'm going to finish doing this with the rest of my pieces and we'll get right back together. Now for the sentiments, here's what I did. Once you make as many cards as you can, you want to make some sort of sentiment. I thought the round looked really cute, so I took a 1 3/4 inch punch and did a white circle, and then I took a 2-inch scallop and did the same color as that background that I used for the card base or for the back of the card, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto this little guy. The sentiment I'm going to use comes from our set called Ornamental Greetings, and it comes from this little guy right here, Happy Holidays. I think that was going to be so cute. So I'm going to ink it up. Just using some onyx black. It's my favorite for sentiments. And then I'm going to center that here. And you can, of course, stamp first and then punch, but for the video, I just did this. I might even prefer to stamp first and then punch around it, but this works. And then we can start to assemble cards. For this little guy, I just glued it directly to my little scallop circle. Just center that there and let some of the little scallops show. I think that's super cute for the holidays. Looks almost like a little wreath. But then I'm going to pop it up on the card front. So I'll put a little foam on the back. Just going to use a little Scotty. Put that there, and let's put it on our card front. Now this is a base here. I'm going to glue down the piece we made earlier together. You could pop this up, by the way, if you wanted to. You could pop this up on foam. Have that glued down. And here's what I think is cute, okay? You decide where you want this guy to go. It can go here, but for me, that covers up that one. So I thought it was really cute right here, kind of nestled in this 4 down in the corner. And this is another thing that takes away or distracts from your lines if they're not perfect. Adding this little guy here. Also thought it was cute to use the circle versus the little squares. So let me show you what we were able to accomplish. So we have that one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. But remember, I told you not to get rid of your little rectangles. So these little guys here, I did them very much like we did the squares, and I was able to get this little card. The main difference is you'll do 5 instead of 4 rows, and that gets you this card using your rectangles. And then you remember, I told you to save these. Let me show you this one. You can also get this card using your little strips. You will have a little bit you have to cut off, but isn't that super cool? Just from 4 pieces of 6x6 cardstock, we were able to get all of these cards. All right, on to the next one. All right, for our next card, how about we make 33 cards from 5 pieces of cardstock? That's right. From the I Love Christmas pack, I chose 5 pieces of cardstock that I like, and I'm going to show you how to do those cards. So each of your pages are going to be 12 by 12, and I'm going to show you how to cut down one, but you'll cut them all the same. So with one piece of my cardstock, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down 4-inch strips to start with, okay? So I should be able to get 3 4-inch strips from the 12 by 12. And remember, you'll do all 5 pieces exactly this way. All right, so then once you have your 4 by 12-inch strips, what you want to do is cut them all down to 1 inch. And you're going to get as many as you can from each sheet. And then you're just going to stack them up with the pattern that you want to use facing forward. For me, I want to use this snowflake. So I'm just going to stack them all up, each color. So these are the patterns that I chose. So from each pattern page, I was able to get 33 of these. My last strip wasn't quite 1 inch. Let me show you. The last strip on the page came out something like this, or the last strip on the 4-inch piece. And the reason for this is because we cannot cut perfectly on 1 inch. We just don't. And our paper is not always perfectly 12. That's just the way it is. But I still feel like 33 cards is going to be great. And these won't go to waste. I can use these for another project. So let me show you what we're going to do. So with these guys, this is super easy. This card goes super quick, which is good because it makes 33 and you want to have these probably pretty quickly if you're looking to, make a bunch of cards for Christmas. So what you're going to do is just lay these guys out in whatever pattern you really like. I started with this. I just added some glue. And then in one corner, you want to lay this guy in. Now, I will tell you this. You're going to have a tiny bit more space top and bottom than you do on the side. And once you lay one of these guys out, the others are just like muscle memory. It gets very easy after that. So I'm just going to glue each of my patterns down in the order that I thought was the most pleasing. I do think too that this one works really well with like busy patterns and putting them next to each other. I think it really helps with the card design. So glue your little strips down and we'll move on to the next step. This is another card where the pattern makes it very forgiving if you're not perfectly straight. Believe it or not, it gets so busy that you really don't notice any kind of imperfections. All right, let's make a sentiment strip for this. So for my sentiment, I'm going to use the one that says it's the most wonderful time of the year from our Winter Wonderland stamp set. I really love this one. And what we did was we cut 33 strips that are 1 inch by 3.5. And I'm just going to ink this sentiment up and stamp it really quick on every one of those strips. So once you have all 33 of those stamped, you want to bring over a piece for behind. Now this piece is going to measure 3 3/4 by 1 1/4. So it's a 1/4 inch bigger than this one. All right, so before we put them together, there's one little thing we want to do. We want to ribbon tail them. And here's how I'm doing it. I want to show you this. Notice that I stamped closer to the left-hand side and left myself some space on the right. That's because I want to do a ribbon tail. And what I'm going to do is eyeball in the center of this guy. I'm going to snip into the middle. And then from each corner, I'm going to cut to that snip. So you see how that looks like this, and then I'm going to do it again here, just like that. Now what you want to do is you want to glue these together before you trim this one because you want them to match. So I'm just going to glue this straight down. I'm not going to foam this. I'm not going to pop this up because it makes it harder to cut the bottom if you do that. So what I'm going to do is line this up to the left-hand side and center it on the little green piece there. Okay. Then I can ribbon tail the end. Now you don't have to ribbon tail it. You might want to just put like a little brad or something here, which would be really cute. But here's what I'm going to do. Do you see the distance from here to here? I'm going to cut my slice to about that same distance away from the point. So I'm just kind of eyeballing that and then go from corner to that slice and corner to that slice. Again, we're not looking for perfection. Nobody's going to judge you, but isn't that super cute? So you need 33 of those. And I have my card base there, so I'm going to add some foam here. I think this will be pretty to pop up this little banner strip. And I'm going to place it, first off, check your fold. That's where I want it. I'm going to place it even with the red edge here. I'm not going to take it all the way to the edge of the card. I'm taking it to the last little strip there, and I'm going to glue it down like that. Isn't that cute? All right, let's do it to all the others. Okay, for our fourth card, and I know you want to see all the cards we've made, stick around to the end. I'm going to lay them all out for you to see. So I know that you want to see the final reveal, and we'll get to that. But for the fourth card, I'm going to be using this pack called Home for Christmas. And honestly, I only need one piece out of it, and we're going to make 16 cards out of it, okay? So let me show you what we're going to do. So I'm only going to need one piece, like I said, and this is the pattern I'm going to use, but I'm also going to use a solid 12 by 12. I'll need that as well. And this one is the green from Cartabella, the linen paper line. It's absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to use these together. So for this guy, we need to cut it down. Let me tell you how. The first thing I want to do here is I want to cut the designer strip off. And remember, I want to make sure I tell you this. Always open your trimmer out so you can measure 12 inches. Because many times the paper companies are generous and you get a little more paper than you expect to get. So I'm going to put that on 12 inch and cut that off. And this one was just perfect this time. But sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're a little bit more generous. So now what we're going to do, I can close this up. Now we're going to cut this down into 3 by 3 squares. So I'm going to start by doing 3-inch strips all the way across. Then I'm going to come back and cut them into the 3-inch squares. I'm just going to stack 2 strips and go to 3 inches again and cut these guys down. Do you see how I'm really paying attention? Make sure you get that paper pushed up to your cut bar there. So 3 by 3 squares. Do that with the rest that you have left. So I misspoke earlier. It's 2 pieces of green. I don't know what I was thinking because this one we're going to cut down to 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And we'll make sure that we say that in the PDF, that we make sure we give you the right amount of papers. All right, so I'm going to cut this down to 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 squares as many times as I cut my designer paper. Now, what do I mean by that? I was able to get 16 of these, so I need 16 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 squares. So we got our squares cut, and now we're going to do something super fun. I'm going to take some ribbon. This is a 1/8 inch ribbon that we have in the store, and I love it. It's this green color. And I don't need these right now. I'm going to slide those away, but I'm going to use these. What I want to do is I'm going to wrap a piece of ribbon around each one of these. And I've got this super thin yellow tape, and it doesn't get a lot of use in my craft room, so I'm going to use it here. But you could certainly do this with Scotch tape or something like that if you'd rather. I'm just going to stick this down just like this, and I'm going to wrap this ribbon around, and then I will trim it off. I don't want to pre-cut these because I don't want to waste any. So this is my plan. If I just wrap them around like this, I don't have to measure or any of that kind of stuff. And then I just stick it down where it goes. So there we go. I have a piece of green taped down, and we'll come back and tie a bow in just a little bit. So you want to do this to all the rest. So now I have all of my ribbons taped onto the little pieces, and now I'm going to add some foam tape to these and pop them up here. So let's do one together really quick. So I'm just going to get some Scotty, and I'm going to place it over that ribbon again as an extra precaution to hold that down, because when I go to tie my bow later, I'm going to be putting a little bit of tension on it. So I'm going to do this, peel off the backer here, and then this goes onto our green, and we're just going to center it. Just line that up in the center. Take your time on that. It's going to make this cute little panel. And we need to do that to all of these guys. So now that I have all of the little cross ribbons done and they're foamed down to their little partner piece there, we're going to take a piece of our green ribbon and I'm going to slide it up underneath this piece, and I'm just going to tie a bow. I'm going to tie it over here to the left-hand side, and you could go ahead and like cut this off to a length that's comfortable for you to tie a bow, or you can do like I'm going to do and leave it on the ribbon so that I don't have to cut some pieces that might not be long enough. Also, let me show you this. If you just want to do a knot, you could do that. That is not nearly long enough for me to tie a bow. I always use too much ribbon because I just can't tie them unless I have a lot of length. So I'm going to put this here. Just tie a quick little bow, trim the tails off, and then the beauty of doing it this way is if you need to move the bow, you can slide it on that piece. Mine doesn't need to go anywhere. I think it's good there, but you can slide it if you need to, and there is our little bow. All right, let's get this done to all the rest. So now we need to stamp onto our card bases a sentiment. I'm going to be using Merry Christmas from Back to Bethlehem. I love the way that one looks here. And what you need to do is you need to place your stamp kind of low, kind of in the bottom third of the card. Here's how you can know you're in the right place. You can just place this little guy up here just to kind of see where it's going to sit, and mine's going to be something like that. And then I can line this up, and once you get one lined up, they'll all go together just fine because they're all the same measurement from here on out. This is going to be so pretty. Okay, so pick this guy up. You might be like, why are you using the stamp wheel? No reason except I have not unloaded my Misties from the other cards we've done. So I'm just going to keep going and I can unload later. Perfect. Now you want to do this to 16 bases. All right, and you guessed it. Once you've done 16 bases, you're just going to glue this right here to the top. Isn't this pretty? I've seen this card on Pinterest so many times and I've never made it. And when we were trying to decide which cards we were going to do in this series, I was like, I want to finally do that. Sometimes the more simple the card, the more elegant. And I feel like that's the case here. It's very elegant looking. So, and it also is a great way to use up some paper that you may not exactly know what to do with, something that's just a pattern like this. Imagine it for some of your papers we use for mystery cards, like some of the Mente that have the pieces you can just cut down and get the scene. That would be really pretty here. So there we go, 16 cards like this. All right, one more card. All right, it's our 5th card. For this card, I'm going to be using Celebrate Christmas, and I only need to choose one piece of cardstock from here because I want one piece of designer and one piece of solid to coordinate. So here's what I want you to think. Whenever I tell you to take one piece from a paper pack, that's because I'm showing you how to make this. But let's say you needed more cards than I'm going to show you. Choose 2 pieces from the paper pack or 3 pieces and do them the same way and just get more and more cards. For this card with 1 piece, we're going to make 12 cards. With your piece of pattern paper, you want to cut it into 4 by 6 pieces. So you can see here, I just put this into the trimmer and I got 6 pieces that are 4 by 6. Now we're going to do that template thing again. Okay, so we're going to take 1 piece and make some measures. So for this card, we need to make marks at 4 inches and at 2 inches. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to line up at the top here, and I'm going to get my ruler set from all the way to 6 inches here, and I'm going to make a mark at 4, and I want to be able to see it. So I'm making that mark where I can really, really see it, okay, right there, 4 inches. Now, here at the bottom, I want to come in 2 inches, okay? So what you want to make sure of is that your top mark is 4, your bottom mark is 2, so we can get a diagonal cut here across, okay? So that's what we're trying to do. So now what I want to do is get my trimmer. Okay, so now what we're going to do is put this into our trimmer at our 4-inch mark and at our 2-inch mark, and we're going to cut that on the diagonal. Now, when you cut on a diagonal like this, it's best to sink your blade and go up and then down to give yourself a really nice cut. So this is what we're looking for, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to use this as a template. It'll make things a lot easier. I'm going to sit this over here, and I'm going to go to my next piece, just keeping all of my wording the same, okay? I'm just going to line this up like this and use this in my trimmer for my guide. Here's the thing. This is a very forgiving card. You do not have to have perfection. They do not have to be exactly the same. You just want roughly the same amount, okay? Because each one of these goes on its own card. Nothing is going to be next to each other. All right, do that with all of your pieces. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your coordinating piece. So remember, this was another sheet of 12 by 12 cut down 4 by 6. And you want to pick up one of your pieces and lay it here, line it up, and you want to do that same diagonal cut on this guy. All right, so we're going to put him into our trimmer, and we're going to cut him on the diagonal. And then what I'm going to do, because I want these to stay together, I'm going to pick this guy up, and then I'm going to take this guy off the top and put him with that side as well, so that they become, I guess, sisters, cousins, brothers, something like that. We want to kind of keep that same one together. So I'm going to do them like that and then sit them to the side. So watch me again. I'm going to pick one up off the top. I'm going to grab this guy and line it up. You do not have to be this picky. I just want to make sure that I get them pretty similar to each other since I'm kind of eyeballing here, if that makes sense. So now that one is mixed with its little partner there. And then we're going to pick this guy up and put it with its partner. And then sit them to the side. Keep those together because we're going to put them, these will go on the same card, so we want them to be similar. You'll understand what I'm saying when you make this card. If you don't kind of pay attention, you can end up with different angles on each card. If you don't want to do this much keeping things together, you can measure every one. But for me, this is quicker, and I don't have to make ruler marks or pencil marks on every single card. All right, I got all these little buddies together and all these little buddies together. Now, watch this. Pick them up in their partner sets, okay? And we're going to offset this. I want that little bit of red to show on the end, so I'm just going to slide this to where I can see whatever amount of that red you want to see. I like it a little thicker than an 1/8 and a little thinner than a 1/4, so something like that. And that's where we'll glue these together, okay? So I'm just going to pick this guy up. I like to put my glue on the bottom piece because it kind of, I know exactly that this end needs to be glued down here, but the top piece, you'll see it'll hang over this edge, and it's harder to know exactly where to put your glue on that one. But on this one, because I know how far away I'm going from the edge, it's easier. Now, let me show you something. You are not perfect. I'm not perfect, and you are not perfect. I hate to tell everybody, but do you see how we got that little hangover edge? That is probably going to happen because we don't cut perfectly every single time. Don't worry, just trim these down to match. You do want to trim it, and the reason you do is because it will show when we put it on our card base. But this is what we're looking for. Isn't that pretty? All right, do that with all of them. So we're going to be stamping on this, and I'm going to be using Glistening once again, and I'm using this sentiment, the most wonderful time of the year. I think that'll be cute. Now, I want to do it on an angle. So here's what I'm going to do. You probably have realized by now that you're going to have a right side and a left side. You know, this is what we've created. Now we're turning this into 2 cards, 1 card, 2 cards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this guy here. These are going to be roughly the same. They're not going to be exact, you know, all the ones you did were roughly the same. And then I'm going to line this guy up over here, but I'm not going to put him right to the edge. See how I'm doing it on the angle? I think that'll be cool. I'm not going to put him right to the edge. And the reason for that is if I am a little bit off in here, it won't matter. All my card bases will be stamped correctly. Now I say all of them, you're only going to be doing 6 like this, then we're going to have to reset for the other side. So let's go ahead and get these done. I'm going to go ahead and close this down and pick up that stamp. And of course, I'll glue this on later. But this way, I can go ahead and start stamping my card bases. All right, so that's 1 done. I'm going to finish the other 5 of this, and then we'll reset for the other one. So now I'm going to reset, and what I did was I put the left-hand side panel onto my card base, and I'm going to place this guy in this angle this time. And again, not going directly up against the line because I want to have a little space, and plus filling up this area a little bit. So let's pick that up. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and stamp it while we're here. And now I just need to stamp the other 5 bases. Now it's time to glue our pieces on. And I want to show you what we're paying attention to here. I can add glue all over the whole back, just like this. And what you want to do, don't worry about your sentiment. Your sentiment is where it should be, okay? Pay attention to this corner. What you want to do is have the same amount showing on this side, and this side for your mat. That's what you're looking at. And if you get that done right, this will line up because we paid attention to that already in our Misty, right? And then that's that one. And when you do this one, the opposite side, it's the same way. Just pay attention to what's hanging over, not hanging over, but what's close to the edge. You want that kind of 1/8 of an inch matte border all the way around, but only on 3 sides. And this is so cool because if you struggle with getting this part right all the way around the card, this is a great card to do because you don't have to pay attention to anything but here, and it makes it very, very easy. All right, guys, let's see all the cards we made today. I hope this is okay. Let's see. All right, you guys, here they are. We have 12 cards from number 1, 7 for number 2, 33 for card number 3, 16 for card number 4, and 12 for card number 5. Can you believe that? For a total of 80 cards with that little bit of cardstock. Isn't that crazy? The thing is, I think it's just taking the cardstock and just playing with it, doing different things like this, you know, making all the little squares and things just makes the cardstock look like so much more. Pick a favorite. I want to know 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. I'm having a hard time because I love this one. I really love this one. This one is elegant and beautiful, but I also love this one. I love them all, but I'm really having a hard time picking a favorite. So let me know in the comments what is your favorite. Now, here's the deal. First, I want you guys to subscribe to my channel. Here's why. This is the first of many this month. We're doing a lot of this type of video for you guys for Christmas because we know you craft for Christmas and not at Christmas. You know, we like to craft ahead of time. So you're going to see a lot of projects like this coming at you this month. Also, you know, we release some new Christmas stamp sets every Monday night until we have finished them all. We will be focusing on a different stamp set. So watch for those videos coming on Mondays at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the next thing I need you to do is I need you to like the video. If this is a video you think is really fun and you'd like to see more like this, give it a big thumbs up. Thirdly, share what you're making. If you do one of these, if you've been inspired, please share it with us, either on our customer gallery at MaymayMadeIt.com or at our Facebook group called Maymay Made It and So Did I. Be sure to head over there and join that group if you haven't. All right, guys, thanks so much for being here and being part of this video. 80 cards with very little supplies, but I know you're right now getting ready to make your cards for Christmas. I know some of you are ahead of the game. You tell me every year that I'm late, even though it's July. But if you're looking for ideas, I hope we helped you today, and keep watching because we got a lot more coming. Thanks so much, and until next time.